Hey everyone, welcome to the Gilbert.K Show. Today's guest is a true Hollywood powerhouse. From throwing punches in Karate Kid 3 to earning an Emmy for Studio City, he's done it all. Actor, author, comedian, producer, and martial artist. You've seen him as Deacon Sharp lighting up daytime TV and as Mike Barnes in Cobra Kai. He's the definition of reinvention and resilience. Please welcome the unstoppable Sean Kanan.
Hey Sean, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Roberto. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here
Thanks for
tonight.
joining me on the show. Um, let's before we kick in the segment, let's watch a clip or a trailer from your work. What are we gonna see or listen to?
Well, why don't we start with something that I think most people know? Why don't we take a look at my reprisal of the role of Mike Barnes from Karate Kid 3 on Cobra Kai, season 6.
Excellent. That's great.
The hell's that supposed to mean?
You Miyagi-Dos, you're good at kata, meditation, that kind of crap. Doesn't exactly produce powerhouse students now, does it?
I could teach you a thing or two about power.
That's cute, Johnny. I mean, you've got some skills. I'm just built different.
Yeah, you're different. You're nothing but a goon for hire.
Going for hire. Well, I suppose it's better than being a cream puff.
Okay, great. Let's kick it off with your breakout. Over 2,000 hopefuls, and you land the role of Mike Barnes in Karate Kid 3.
Yeah.
What was like for you as a young Sean stepping into such a huge franchise?
Wow, that's a really good question. When I was a little kid, I used to run back from school for lunch to go watch Happy Days. And so I knew Pat Morita as Arnold before anybody ever knew him as Mr. Miyagi. So, and I was also a guy that bought a ticket to sit in the theater for the Karate Kid and the Karate Kid 2. And now suddenly I'm on set. I'm working with Pat Morita. I'm working with Ralph Macchio. And there was definitely a pinch me moment period, but it ended very quickly because it was readily apparent that this was a very serious opportunity. There was a lot going on. I always say that whatever industry you're in, whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, or working on a construction site, there's a specific vernacular that goes with that job, right? And film sets are no different. And as a very, very young actor with very limited experience, it was almost in some respects like I was listening to a different language. The lighting crew saying, kill the baby. I'm like, well, kill the baby. What does that mean? Well, of course, they're talking about getting rid of one of the small lights and, check the gate and all sorts of things that I simply just didn't know and had to learn very quickly. And it was difficult and challenging, but as much as you can learn in acting class, which of course is substantial, there's nothing like on the job experience for an actor. And, I made a quantum leap in my knowledge as an actor, both practically on the set and as far as, the creative quote unquote craft aspect of acting, during this absolute 100% immersification in being a part of a big budget film.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you were a kid, were you like involved in theaters, like community theaters and stuff, or
So
how did you
so
start?
I wasn't what I would term a theater geek,
Yeah, yeah.
but I did do a handful of plays. I did do a number of plays as a young aspiring actor. It wasn't until I went to university. I was studying political science, but I started taking acting class, and that really crystallized my,
Wow,
my desire to pursue it professionally.
that's amazing. So from there, the iconic role like AJ Quartermain and Deacon Sharp,
Mhm.
solidified your spot in daytime drama royalty. What did those characters teach you as an actor and storyteller?
One of the things, actually, there's a couple things about being on soap operas that are very helpful for an actor. One is um, you have to be able to digest and execute voluminous amounts of dialogue. You know, when you're working on a film, you might do 8, 9, maybe 10 pages a day. And
Um,
on a soap opera, you're doing probably, well, the show would shoot probably 85 pages a day because we do a show and a half. I would frequently have 30 pages of dialogue a day. And so you have to train that muscle memory to
yeah,
learn a lot of dialogue quickly. So to this day, you know, I can learn a lot of dialogue quickly. I don't have a photographic memory, but I know how to do it.
yeah,
Uh, the other thing is that you're given playing a soap opera character is longitudinal in the sense that when you do a film, the
mhm,
script has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But when you're on a soap opera and to a lesser degree, a nighttime television series, it continues on.
yeah,
A nighttime show is generally like 22 episodes, but the soap opera is filmed every day. So you're constantly being given curveballs emotionally to play as your character develops. And to I don't want to say a lesser degree, but another aspect of that is that, you know, I started in daytime in 1992. I started playing Deacon Sharp in 2000. So this is my 25th year since I started Deacon Sharp. And like all of us, you know, I've changed as a person. I've evolved as a human being. I've had children.
yeah,
I've gotten married, I've gotten divorced, and I've gotten married again. And all of those things come into play in the emotional Rolodex of what you can bring to your acting. And
yeah,
I've seen not only in my acting on daytime, but in the material given to me, there's been an evolution. And it's
yeah,
funny, you know, the actors, we always joke how with The Bold and the Beautiful, Brad Bell, who's the executive producer, head writer, we say he has this preternatural ability to sense what's going on in our personal lives and somehow use the very best aspects to incorporate that into our storylines so that we're drawing on things that are close to the surface for us. And
wow,
I've noticed that. I'm like, how the hell does he know this is going on in my life and it's
yeah,
manifesting in my character? And you know, as an actor, you always want to look internally to your own life experientially before having to manifest something that maybe hasn't happened to you personally and therefore have to create it sort of in the ether. And so, you know, daytime's been a phenomenal experience for me.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, can you remember the moment when you thought, "This is it. I'm in the right place"? And what originally lit your fire for the entertainment world?
I think from the time that I was pretty young, I'd say around 13,
Yeah,
you know, I came from a small town in Pennsylvania, uh, kind of a steel town, little rough scrabbled
mhm,
in some parts, and also lived 5 miles from the Amish people. So it was this interesting dichotomy of, you know, living in a small city, but being very close to this sort of rural environment. And I think very early on, I knew that I wanted to look beyond the immediate horizon, and acting seemed like a really great way to not only express myself but to
mhm,
experience something far beyond what was, you know, immediately in my you know, in my ecosystem. Um, I I think that I knew pretty quickly once I moved from, I was going to school in Boston. I was going to Boston University. I transferred to UCLA to finish my political science degree, but ostensibly to finish my political science degree, which I did, but really it
yeah,
was to start my acting career in earnest. And I just knew very quickly, I said, this is it. This is what I want to do. Um,
uh-huh,
and it was difficult. It was hard. There's, you know, there's a tremendous amount of rejection, and you have to be your own biggest cheerleader, because if you don't think you're going to make it, how the hell is anyone going to go pay, $20 to sit in the dark and watch you for 2 hours in a movie theater, right?
That's true.
And so it fostered a very deep belief in my own ability and in the fact that I had made the right decision. Now, that doesn't mean that during the course of the marathon, not the 50-yard dash, there weren't moments of, doubt and questioning, but I always came back to the same answer. And that answer was, when push comes to shove, all day long and twice on Sunday, I'll bet on myself.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
it's proved to be the right choice. And sometimes I wonder, would I have chosen to be an actor if I had to do it all over again?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would. I have no regrets. And it's given me an unbelievably rich life.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think all things considered, I made the right choice. And it's given me a life experientially. I'm not talking about creature comforts and money and things like that. It's
Yeah.
allowed me to do things in my life that have forced me to become a more self-aware human being. Because I think ultimately, I know I'm probably taking a left turn here, but in life, human beings build up all sorts of defenses and armor to deal with and endure the slings and arrows of day-to-day
Mm-hmm.
life. And the actor's job is to rip those defenses down and get in touch with your vulnerability and your authentic self. And that's one gift that having chosen to be an actor has afforded me.
Wow. Do you think martial arts helped you also refocus and during the setbacks?
Very much so. Um,
Yeah.
I was fortunate to train with an absolute martial arts legend, Shihan Fumio Demura, who also happened to be Pat Morita's stunt double, played Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Miyagi. And Sensei Demura used to always say, get knocked down 7 times, get up 8. And
Wow.
it's true. And, there's, Sylvester Stallone says it in Rocky. Everybody gets knocked down. Life is undefeated.
Yeah.
Nobody beats life. You
Mm-hmm.
learn how to meet life on life's terms. And the people that I think what separates the winners from not the winners are the people who get knocked down and are able to infer the experience as a teacher, not as a failure. And it
Mm-hmm.
took me a long time to learn that. And now that I've learned it, it has helped me tremendously.
Wow. That's amazing. Before we move on to the next segment, let's watch another clip or trailer. What are we going to see, Sean?
So this is a film called Survive the Game that I was fortunate enough to work on with Bruce Willis. I think it was 2021, and we were really still very much in COVID. And I got the opportunity to go to Puerto Rico and shoot a movie with Bruce Willis. And, I'm a child of the 80s. I mean, I
Yeah.
grew up, Bruce Willis was the man. And so for me, that was a bucket list opportunity. And I had the chance to work with Bruce. It's funny, in this scene, I have a mohawk. They kept telling me, we're going to have to give you a haircut when you get to location. And I said, okay, cut my hair, big deal. No, they gave me a mohawk, which was a whole other story. And then I finished this movie and I came back to the States, back to California, and I got a call to return and do another movie in Puerto Rico with Bruce a month later, because
Yeah.
he had a deal to shoot multiple films. So I got to do back-to-back films with Bruce Willis. And
Wow.
this was a tremendous opportunity, and it's a real funny scene where myself and an actor named Simon Phillips, who's an English actor, are discussing how Americans have Elvis Presley as the king and the Brits have a monarchy, and how we're kind of two nations divided by a common language.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's watch it or listen to it.
It's the 21st century, and y'all living under a monarchy like it's the Middle Ages.
Excuse me, mate. We're very lucky to have a monarch. Closest you guys ever came to a monarch is Elvis. And you know what they said about Elvis?
Fix, hold your horses right there. Don't you blaspheme about the king.
Well, maybe you don't say anything about the Queen. Deal?
Deal. Now, we're all gonna shut the fuck up.
You do realize that we are the guns.
Yes.
Okay, great. So you've done stand-up at the Laugh Factory and you played serious drama, written books, and danced on TV in Italian. How do you stay inspired and grounded across so many creative formats?
I think I have a lot of different interests, and I think that I love entertaining people. That's at the foundation of what I do. I've always loved entertaining people. I was the kid who, would knock on the neighbor's door and tell them that there was going to be a show in my living room in 2 hours. And much to my mother's chagrin, people would start showing up and I would put on some crazy performance. Um, I stay, I'll tell you, for a long time, I struggled with a drinking addiction.
Mm,
And I have since dealt with that, and my life has become utterly amazing. But I think there's a part of me that feels like I wasted a lot of time. I wasted opportunities, I wasted time, and I feel now like I've got to play catch up.
mhm.
And it's not a sense of fear, it's a sense of drive. I wake up
Yes.
every morning and my feet hit the ground and I'm like, all right, let's do this. What's going on today? And I've got so many blessings and amazing things going on in my career in different aspects of entertainment. Writing, my wife and I were just hired to write an action film, which we completed. We are now going into production because it's financed. We're producing it. I'm acting in it. We're going into production in July. I'm still working on The Bold and the Beautiful.
Yeah.
Michelle and I just put out our first book together, which came out this past September. So I got a lot going on, and I think each of those pursuits feeds a different creative part of me,
Mhm.
and that keeps me passionate.
That's amazing. Um, so comedy is a whole different beast. What did you learn from performing at legendary clubs like the Comedy Store that helped you off stage too?
Yeah, I've been doing stand up off and on for a very long time, and you use the word beast. The comedy's a beast. You have to be a beast to do comedy. Um, I tell young actors, if there's any way that you can put together 5 minutes of stand up and go up on stage, it will change your acting fundamentally forever. If you can get up with just your words and a microphone, not a
Hmm.
script, in front of an audience that's sitting there going, okay, make me laugh, and you
Yeah.
can do it, um, it's a tremendous asset as an actor. Uh, Further made a force multiplier if you have the ability to do improv and to write. I can't tell you how many times, almost every single project that I work on, I
Yeah.
will do some rewriting to varying degrees. And you can take a script that might be a good script, or even if it's a great script, but maybe your role is small. And if you're
Hmm.
able to tweak and rewrite some stuff, um, and the production accepts it, you can take a role that might otherwise be not particularly consequential and make it consequential. And I'll
Hmm.
give you a great example of that. Rutger Hauer's, famous monologue, "Tears in the Rain," in Blade Runner. So Rutger basically wrote that,
Hmm.
and he changed the final line, which was, all these memories will be lost like tears in the rain, time to die.
Hmm.
And it's a very short monologue. I don't remember exactly. I think it's
Yeah.
48 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong, as opposed to Robert Shaw's brilliant monologue in Jaws, right, which is a long
Yeah.
monologue. And because he had the ability to tweak it, it became one of the most memorable cinematic monologues of all time. And so I think that having done stand up, and when you're doing stand up, you're getting that immediate reciprocity from the audience, and you're knowing what's working, what's not working, and you're
Yeah.
making nanosecond edits and changes in your brain to accommodate your routine and the audience and the flow. And if you
Yeah.
can do that and bring that to dialogue that you have, it's like I said, it's a force multiplier.
Wow. Wow. Okay, let's talk Studio City, an Emmy win, powerful storyline.
Mm.
What truth were you trying to tell through that show?
Well, they say write what you know. And for better or for worse, there's not too many people that know more about being a leading man in a soap opera for over 30 years than I do. And, that comes with a lot of, bumps and bruises and victories and challenges. And I think one of the things I wanted to show was that when you first see my character, Sam Stevens, ostensibly you probably think this guy's got the world by the tail. He's a successful, good-looking guy on a television show, and he must have all these women after him and make money and blah 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 blah. And you learn very quickly that he is
Yeah.
just trying to figure it out like the rest of us. He's trying not to step on his own foot and stay out of his own way with varying degrees of success. And kind of no matter what life looks like from the outside to others, everybody is fighting their own private wars.
Mhm. Wow. Um, your book, Way of the Cobra, became a mindset movement. What inspired you to go from performing to empowering others?
Mm. Well, I've written for a very long time. Writing has been a very big part of who I am as a person and as a entertainer. Um, and I had experienced a pretty significant transformation in my
Mhm.
life in my early 50s. I was 50 pounds overweight. I was struggling with addiction. I was hanging on to whatever job I had by the skin of my teeth. And, you know, probably to some people on the outside, it looked like I still had a lot of the trappings of success. Probably to others, they could see past that veneer. But I knew that I had wandered into a wasteland of mediocrity. And if I didn't do something very quickly, I was going to swirl down the drain of life.
Mhm.
And I made some very, it's like this with everything in life. Most changes are simple, but not easy. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
simple to see. If you do this, your life will change. The
Mhm.
chasm between recognizing it and doing it is, there's the rub, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was able to do it. I lost more than 50 pounds. I won an Emmy. I put all I stopped drinking. I put all the aspects of my life that were presenting significant challenges to me. I put them to bed,
Yeah.
and my life really started exploding in a way that for so long I just couldn't understand why my life wasn't happening the way I wanted to. And it's almost comical that if I would
Mhm.
have just stepped outside myself for a minute and watched myself and said, well, it's because of
Yeah.
this and this and this. And I said, you know what? I want to share this. I want to share the philosophy and the strategies that I've used to change my life. And for those people not familiar with my books, there's three of them. The first is Way of the Cobra. Cobra is an acronym. It's formed from the words character, optimization, balance, respect, and abundance. It's
Yeah.
the strategies and philosophy I use to change my life. The book is set up that I'm the sensei, which means teacher in Japanese and in martial arts. The book is divided into chapters, white belt to black belt. And if you put the strategies and philosophies of my book into action, your life will change, full stop.
Mhm.
Um, the second book was called Welcome to the Kumite. The Kumite is an epic battle against your greatest opponent, which of course
Mhm.
is you. How do you defeat an opponent that knows everything about you, all of your weaknesses, all of your insecurities? Well, you do it by defeating that opponent every single day
Yeah.
and being reborn as a kinder, wiser, stronger, tougher, more empathetic version of who you were the day before. And it's a never ending loop. And that plays into the philosophy that I have about it's one of life's great ironies. If you want results, ignore them.
Mhm.
Don't focus on results. Focus on building a bulletproof process for whatever it is that you want to do. And if you put all your energy into refining the process to get the
Mhm.
results will come. And then the third book in the series is called Way of the Cobra Couples. And couple implies two. And so I needed a guest sensei for that. And who better than my wife, Michelle? And so the book is written to help people turbocharge their relationship. If you're single and not finding the right one, to stop wasting time and find the right person for you. And it's written in two voices. There's my voice, and we use one font for that. And there's my wife's voice. And we agree on a great many things, but not on everything. And so the book offers two very compelling, interesting, but not always completely aligned perspectives that both get the same positive results, but take different approaches sometimes to do it. And I have to tell you, as flattering as it is to have somebody come up to me and say, you know, I've watched you in this or I've watched you in that, nothing is more flattering to me than someone who says, hey, listen, I read your book, and I read it in a really dark time of my life, and it talked me off the edge. It helped me change my life. And that to me is the most fulfilling thing for me, that I could possibly experience.
Wow.
And they're available
Before
on Amazon, so please get them. Way the Cobra, Welcome to the Kumite, and Way the Cobra Couples.
Great. So let's move on to the next segment. We play a game called This or That.
Okay.
And basically, in this game, I'll give you two options, and you have to pick the one you like the most or the one that fits you better.
Okay.
There are no wrong answers, and you don't need to explain your choice unless you want to. Okay. It's all about quick, fun decisions to show us more about you and for the audience to get to know you better.
Let's go.
Are you ready, Sean?
Let's do it.
Soap opera or stand-up? Sorry, put you on the spot.
Stand up. Stand up.
Karate Kid or Comedy Quip?
Comedy Quip.
Studio City or Cobra.K?
Boy, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm going to say Studio City because, it's so difficult to get anything made in Hollywood. And then once you get it made, it's so difficult to find an audience. And then if you find an audience, do they like it? And if they like it, are you recognized for it? And this was like a nascent, embryonic idea that found its way to fruition. And I know this was supposed to be quick, but Cobra Kai is a worldwide sensation that exposed me to millions and millions and millions of people. But and it was financially it was a much better deal for me. But just walking around feeling good about having accomplished something, I got to go with Studio City.
Okay, great. Red carpet or rough draft?
Rough draft.
Hollywood heat or Italian chill?
Italian chill.
Villain vibes or hero hustle?
It's changed. Early on in my career, I really would have probably said villain, and I'm going to go with hero.
Okay. Book signing or stage lighting?
It's a tough one too. I'm going to go with stage lighting.
Bad boy or wise guy?
Bad boy or wise guy? Probably wise guy.
Emmy speech or encore set?
I'm gonna go with Emmy speech. If that makes me shallow, who cares?
Okay, let's move on to the next segment. You're a fan favorite in Italy and speak the language fluently. What has working internationally taught you about connection and culture?
Ooh. Well, first of all, it's amazing that especially in Italy, there's such a rich history of Italian cinema, which is incredible, and their fascination with our cinema and our fascination with their cinema. Um, I love the Italian people. I married one of them. Um, uh, my wife and I own a place in Italy. I mean, I consider it a second home. Um, we're actually just formalized plans yesterday to go as soon as we wrap this next film. So I have a very strong connection with Italy, and it
Mhm.
teaches you that although it's a very different culture, there are common denominators that
Similarities, yeah.
exist among all of us, and it's so cool to see when you meet someone that you might not necessarily have a huge frame of reference with culturally, that you can
Mhm.
find something like film or comedy, the ability to laugh or something like that, and food, of course, and
Yeah.
these are the great bridges across the chasms of outward differences that really bind us into a worldwide human tapestry.
Hmm. 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 That's amazing. You've done your USO tours and anti-bullying advocacy. You work with the Red Cross. What drives your mission to give back? Probably we touched a little bit about that,
Yeah,
about giving
somebody
back.
somebody smarter than me said this, and it really has stuck with me. The secret to life is finding what that beautiful gift that the Creator has instilled in each one of us, and every single one of us has one.
Hmm.
The meaning of life is taking that gift and sharing it with others to make the world a better place. And I know that might sound like a beauty queen uh,
Speech.
answer, but I believe
Yeah.
it. And I have been very blessed. I have a fantastic platform to reach a lot of people. And at the end of the day, it's nice to get things, but if you really are being honest, or at least for me, doesn't it feel better when you're giving to somebody?
Mhm.
That connection, that ability to make someone's life better.
Yeah.
And it's contagious.
Mhm.
It's almost addictive. And it's not about placing yourself in a superior position where you're able to help those below you. It's about making a connection with people and helping make their lives better. And somebody early on when I started getting sober, somebody said to me, if you want to build your self-esteem,
Mhm.
do estimable acts. And I'll tell you, man, the quickest way that I know to feel better about myself when maybe I'm not having a great day is to get out of my head and help somebody else. And and
Yeah.
and you can kind of say, you know what, this was a shit day, but I did this
Mhm.
one thing, and I say, thank you, God, for giving me the opportunity that I'm in a place that I could do this one thing to maybe make the world a little better place. And
Yeah.
I'm a huge proponent of the law of vibration, and the law of
Mhm.
vibration says that everything vibrates at the subatomic level, even rocks.
Mhm.
So do thoughts, so do emotions, so do words. And the universe is not for you or against you. The law of the
Mhm.
universe says the vibration that you put out is matched. And I find that when you put out a vibration of living in abundance and not scarcity and giving to others, boy, the heavens just rain down blessings upon you. And that's not why you do it, or at least not why
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do it, but it's a pretty nice side effect of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Um, we're coming to the end of the show.
No!
Before we move on to the last segment, I know. Before we
It's
move on
been
to the
great
last
talking to
segment.
you, though. It's been just like you said. It's really just like a couple of friends talking, right?
Yeah. You can come back on the show when you have another project. We can
I would
talk
love
more
it.
about it if you'd like.
Good.
Um,
Thank you.
let's watch a final clip or trailer.
Sure.
What are we gonna see?
This is a really great scene. It's a scene. It's a scene that I wrote for Studio City, and in this scene, I'm talking to my daughter on the show, played by Juliet Vega, who happens to be my real life stepdaughter. And she is a tremendous, tremendous actress. And I'm very proud to have had the opportunity to work with somebody that I not only love, but believe is a huge talent. And just, it's funny. I'm doing the scene with her, and I really have to divorce myself from that part of me which is like the proud papa,
Yeah.
acting with my stepdaughter who I've worked with extensively. But I'm so proud of her, and I really have to do my very best to keep up with her in the scene.
Excellent. Let's watch it or listen to it.
Yeah.
That I try and make an effort. You put up this wall. I'm going to speak as clearly as I can, and I hope you understand me, all right? When you showed up, it scared the shit out of me. Do you understand? Not because you told me that I might be your dad, because, frankly, I always figured something like that was in the cards. But because you forced me to realize that my life is pretty empty, okay? And that was a tough realization. And you put it front and center, and I resented you for it.
What are you talking about? You've had a huge career, tons of fans, and everyone loves you.
Oh, everyone loves me? Really? So you must be talking about my stepfather, who's dying of cancer, and when I'm trying to get him to take his treatments, he reminds me that I'm a bastard. Is that who you're talking about? Oh, no, wait a second. You must be talking about my mother, right? The one who took off to parts unknown, and I haven't heard shit from her. Or maybe you're talking about my best friend and manager, who during the biggest thing that's going on in my life, this film, can't even be found. Or maybe you're talking about my fiance who screwed my co-star. Yeah, I'm crushing it. You're a kid. You don't know shit.
Okay, great. This is my last segment. How do you define success today versus how you saw it back in the Karate Kid days?
Boy, that is a great question. And it's something that I write about extensively in my books, and I talk about in my TEDx that just came out. And I would really hope that everybody Googles Sean Kanan TEDx and watches it. Everybody's got an internal barometer where they know what has to happen in their lives to feel successful. And let me tell you what success is not. Success is not the airbrushed covers of fitness and fashion magazines that set impossibly high standards for people to achieve. It's not the, parading of conspicuous consumption of social media influencers with their fabulous lives, many of which are cultivated by Photoshop and publicists. And it's not the constant bombardment of television commercials telling us what we have to own to be successful. And when you define what your success is, and then you achieve it, that to me is true success. And I'll just cap that off with, imagine a guy that's an immigrant, doesn't speak English very well. Maybe he's an older guy, and he's worked as a janitor all of his life. There's absolutely honor in a hard day's work, but let's be honest, it's probably not the first person that we would put at the top of our list as being a super successful individual. But what if I told you that same man saved all of his money and put his only daughter through medical school, and she went on to become a brilliant research scientist saving thousands of lives? I would say that guy was really successful. And so we have to learn to identify success both in ourselves and in others in non-traditional ways.
Yeah.
And when you can do that and realize that, living in a big house, driving a fancy car is great. And I like nice things as much as the next person, but they're things and they can be taken away from you. Your health can be taken away from you. One thing that cannot be taken away from you is your character. And it goes back to what I said about cultivating the process, not the results. And if you focus continually on improving your character, and it's a constant battle, then I think you're a successful person. At least it's what makes me feel successful.
Wow, that's a good answer. uh, you're learning new languages, still creating, still training. What's the next big move for you?
Well, my wife and I are going into production mid-July for a feature film that we just wrote. Michelle
Hmm.
will be directing it. I'm producing it, and I'm one of the actors in it. Um, I'm very proud to announce that we were recently both accepted into the Producers Guild of America. And so, for me, producing is something that I've been doing for a long time, but it's really started to explode for me. And it's so exciting to have
Yeah.
this second career that's at 58 years old is really catching fire now. And I get to do it with my wife, who is
That's
such a talented human being. Um, and I love her, and I love working with her. So that's what's next. Like I said, it's my 25th year since beginning The Bold and the Beautiful,
yeah.
and probably not going to write another book for a while because my wife threatened to kill me if I uh, if I suggest another book project.
Yeah.
And then we're taking the whole family and going to Italy in August, and I can't wait for a
Cool.
little
Very
R&R
cool.
and family time. Yeah.
Very cool. That's nice. If your life were a movie, what would the title be, and what would you want people to take away from it?
What would the title of my life be? It'd be I'm just getting started. And I'd want them to
Yeah.
take away that everybody has those moments where you have a crisis of conscience, where you say to yourself,
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm going to wind up not only being successful in business, I don't know if I'm going to be successful as a human being. And it's
Hmm.
not unnatural to think that. It's that get knocked down 7 times, get up 8. And
Hmm.
the moments of growth that we experience is when we are in those places of darkness and fight our way back into the light.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Um, what advice do you have for upcoming actors or
Mm,
producers
yeah.
who would like to become like you
Hmm.
or follow your path? What would you tell if like, what do they need to do? Is there a formula? I know probably some people say, "Oh, it's there's no formula. Everybody has their own path."
Well, I
Um,
can tell you, I've given this some thought because I work with a lot of young actors. Before you slip into the skin of another character, you must be
mhm,
comfortable in your own skin. And so I would say, in conjunction with studying acting or even before, do everything you can to heighten your own self-awareness and increase your experiential Rolodex. I tell actors, study a martial art, travel,
mhm,
read, listen to music, see plays, study a foreign language,
mhm,
study psychology, um, get introspective, look into your personal challenges, the moments when you've, you know, overcome them and the moments where maybe you faltered, and
mhm,
really learn as much as you can about the human condition, but that human condition starts with yourself. And
mhm.
for me, I've become it I believe I've become an infinitely better and more interesting actor because I've become a more interesting human being. And how do you become an interesting human being? You do that by being an interested human being, by being curious about life, trying new things, exploring ideas that might run counter to your own. And in doing that, you grow, you become more evolved, and it gives you a greater facility to bring that knowledge to your work as an actor or
Yeah,
anything. I mean, I don't care if you're a pharmacist or you're,
yeah,
a taxi driver. You know what I mean? The more
yeah.
we expand who we are, uh, the more interesting people we become.
Mhm, mhm. How can our audience connect with you?
They can reach me on Instagram, which is Sean.Kanan. I keep my DMs on. I try my best to respond to as many people as I can. You can go to my website, which is wayofthecobra.com, and it's kind of got all things Sean. And yeah, I'd love to hear from people. And I really hope one of the best ways to connect with me is to go get my books, read my books,
Yeah.
and then contact me and let me know what you think and if they've helped you. And if you have any questions about them, I love answering questions from people who shoot me random emails. Um,
Mhm.
so that's probably the best way.
Excellent. Sadly, we're coming to an end on the show. That's all, folks. Sean Kanan, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.